The seat that you're after apparently is not too close to call. You have a couple of months. What are you going to do to get on that list?
To get on that list. And in fact, it's certainly, the president was out here last month giving me a great shout out, saying that he sees me on TV all the time, that I am working hard, and that on the merits I should win. And he's right. And I will win because we're actually going to work for the people of New York. Instead, my opponent, Kirsten Gillibrand, is spending all of her time traveling around the country running for president. New Yorkers need someone who will actually get bills passed. She's only passed one bill in 9.5 years in the Senate. It's crazy.
Well, her voting record,
deserve better.
Her voting record speaks for itself, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, the primary is Thursday. It looks like you'll capture the Republican nomination, but you're also seeking the nomination on the Reform Party and the Conservative Party. How do you reconcile? I mean, obviously there's overlap between these party nominations, but how do you reconcile that the day after the primary?
Well, actually, Graham, New York is a very odd state, as I think most people in the country would agree with. You actually can have more than one party line, and all the votes get totaled together in order to get your final vote total. In fact, Kirsten Gillibrand has other party lines as well. But yes, I am the Republican, the Conservative, and the Reform Party nominee. And we are really bringing our fight because, you know, Kirsten Gillibrand has moved so far to the left to appeal to national liberal activists and coalitions. She was the first senator to call for ICE to be abolished.
Right. And so when you're running for these three different nominations, and then obviously they're combined in the total vote, where is the overlap in your mind between the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, and the Reform Party, just for edification?
Absolutely. Well, Reform and Conservative often work together. I would say almost all the time. Reform is a little unusual, but I think that in order to win a statewide race, you need to have a line that you can get Democrats and people who, in New York, they call them blanks, people who are not registered to a single party. And that's very important. And one of the big ways, and I'm going to get those people to vote for me, is because I came out with a proposal to deduct your rent off your federal taxes. I mean, why is it that only homeowners can deduct the interest on their mortgage and their property taxes? Renters need help too.
Sure.
And so I've proposed $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. And that will really help the 2 million plus people, apartments that are in New York City alone. I mean, we're talking close to 4 million people, voters, who could, who would be interested in voting on the Reform Party line for somebody who's actually going to help them. This tax bill was good for so many people, but it hurt states like New York, which are very high tax states.
Right.
Here is an opportunity to actually help a lot of middle class people. And I talk to people in their 20s and their 30s, and their rent is so high, and they're unable, in order to pay off their student loans or to save for a down payment on our house. This rent deduction, this federal tax deduction will do that.
Kirsten Gillibrand, of course, was against the tax cuts. Kirsten Gillibrand really hasn't done much for the people of New York, let alone the 49 other states. She has an F in the Conservative Review Liberty score. She has a straight F, 12%. The good news is that's 3 times what the other senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, has. And he has an F, 4%. But the bottom line is she's especially bad in budgeting and spending issues in Washington, D.C. Your background is financial services. You come from a completely opposite perspective, I would imagine, and from the private sector.
I do, Graham. Yes. In fact, not only am I not a career politician, I mean, I have been in finance and running companies for my entire career. I was the finance chair for the Republican Party, which is how I sort of dipped my toe into this. But I've also said that I think the era of career politicians is over. I have said that I would only serve 2 terms. I think 2 terms, 12 years in the Senate is long enough. And after that, it's time for someone else with fresh ideas and lots of energy and enthusiasm to get in there. But one of the reasons I actually think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won is because she was running against a career politician who was thinking about higher office, and I'm running against a career politician who's thinking about running for president.
Maybe.
And New York wants people who are just going to represent them.
It could be true, what you're saying about her district, but her district also changed. I think the demographics changed a lot, too. But let's talk about you. If you believe the polling, and I don't know that you do, if you believe the latest polling, I think it was a 25-point spread between you and Gillibrand. How do you close that gap in the last 2 months of the campaign, other than talking about this rent subsidy, this rent tax deduction you're talking about?
Well, actually, the last poll was 15 points.
All right.
And that was after the president gave me a shout out, and I did a statewide TV ad. But you're absolutely right. It is trying to get the message out. And the other big difference between me and Kirsten Gillibrand is our positions on Israel. She has moved radically to the left and has turned her back on Israel by voting for the Iran nuclear deal, voting against the Taylor Force Act, and then sponsoring the anti-BDS legislation, which I'm all in favor of, but then quietly taking her name off of it. In New York, that does not play well.
Yeah.
And so I am talking to people about all of these issues, and I think we have a real opportunity in November. So if people want to know more about my campaign, they can certainly go to my website, and the easier one to remember is firegillibrand.com.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.